Okay, can you hear me? I don't know if that I need a microphone. I feel like we could maybe make this a fireside chat, but thank you. Welcome for coming. I think most parents are probably thinking putting together Halloween costumes tonight. So, but fortunately this program will be recorded, and I want to thank those of you that are here. This is the second in a series of Orinda's Wildfire Community Education Nights, which we are holding in collaboration between the City of Orinda, MOFD, and of course our school districts. And tonight's program is a joint collaboration with Orinda Union School District, our K-8 school district. I will start by introducing myself, which I probably should have. My name is Latika Malkani. I am your current mayor. I've served on the city council since 2022 and have been in Orinda for over 21 years and had all three kids go to Delray, OIS, and Miramonte. So I'm very familiar with this location. I'm trying to advance the slides. Okay, this is our current Orinda City Council. Our Vice Mayor, Brandon Iverson, is going to be sworn in as mayor in December. And so come to our meeting on December 16th if you can. It's a lovely transition meeting. Council member Darlene G has served for, I think this is her third term on the council. And we're grateful for that institutional knowledge that she has. Councilmember Janet Riley has been on the council together with the vice mayor and I also since 2022. And Councilmember Cara Hoxie joined us on the council in 2024. But as many of you know, served your OUSD school board for 2 terms, including as president. It's been fun. A lot of people ask me to state the obvious. We have an all-female council, and folks sometimes ask, how is that different? I don't know that it's necessarily any different, but we do try to approach problem solving in a real collaborative way. And I'm grateful for that. And it's something I think that benefits our community and local government, especially because we don't see it everywhere these days. I've already introduced myself, but I'm going to be facilitating tonight's panel. And before we get into introductions, I did want to just make a couple introductory remarks about the overall framework for this panel and something that we're not covering. So what we're not covering tonight is the elephant in the room, but now it's on your slide here, which is the insurance crisis that we're facing. I did want to say a few words about that. You know, I think Orinda residents are probably one of the most hard-hit communities throughout the state when it comes to non-renewals. State Farm in particular has non-renewed a lot of our policies in 2024 and 2025, and that's because they were one of the last major insurers left, you know, in Orinda. And that's left a lot of residents, including myself, including our own Assembly member, Rebecca Bauer-Cahan, with no choice other than to go on the FAIR plan, right? So a lot of folks, we're gonna hear today a lot about what we can do to make our communities safer. We're gonna hear about emergency preparedness and evacuation and wildfire mitigation. And folks have said to me, if I'm just gonna get non-renewed, why am I doing all this, right? And the reason why is a few things. You know, first, hopefully by the end of the presentation tonight, you will be convinced, but I do want to address that while we are in a really horrible time for insurance in the state of California, and it really is a statewide issue, and I can assure you that, you know, your city council and your state elected representatives, Assembly member Rebecca Bauer-Cahan and our state senator Tim Grayson, are both very aware of this problem, and it's a front and center issue to them, and they're working hard to change it, having experienced it themselves. And you know, we have explored with some insurers the concept of pilot programs where insurers would write in return for would agree to write if an area or a community engaged in mitigation efforts, these are things that are starting to be discussed. So while, so far there haven't been bites on that in Orinda, but what I am, because we have homes that are so high risk and high value, there's still a desire to reduce exposure in Orinda. But I do think at some point, and this is incredibly frustrating, but the tide will turn and we are going to look to see models, and we're already seeing signs of that. We're hearing talk about more introduction of wildfire modeling. We're hearing signs of, we're hearing noises on a state level about introducing efforts of mitigation, right, in how we calculate premiums and risk. And while we're not there yet, and we have a really far way to go on that, and I share your frustration. My personal policies doubled this last year, and they weren't cheap to begin with. We are going to get there. So I could talk for hours about insurance. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to do that after. I don't want to take any more time on that, but I did want to address it. So building a wildfire adapted community is really a partnership. It is a partnership between local government. Your local government includes the city of Orinda. It includes our fire district. It includes our schools. The other partners are our private and community partners that are adjacent to Orinda or have an impact on Orinda. That's East Bay Mud, East Bay Parks, PG&E, Caltrans. And then the third pillar in this partnership are residents, and that's all of you. And we really, really cannot do this alone. We all have to do our part. And without that, we will not succeed, right? And so the spirit I want you to approach all this is collaboration and partnership. It is not easy. It is not fun to do the necessary mitigations. I have been working on my own residents since 2018. I am not done. I am close, but I am not done. And it takes a lot of time and effort. So aim for improvement, and we're going to give you a lot of tips. The good news is we've created a lot, and you're going to hear all about that tonight. But the partnerships are really important. In those partnerships, you are not alone. You're not being told, go do all this work on your property. We have with us an incredible network of nonprofit organizations here in Orinda. Okay, it started with Firewise councils. Now we have not only the Moraga-Orinda Firewise network, but also FSMO, Fire Safe Moraga-Orinda. And I would like to, we have a couple representatives in the room. Mark Evans and Todd Stern, can you just wave your hands? Any questions you have, come to all of us, come to them. We all work together. And it's a partnership I'm really proud of. Okay, without further ado, I want to have the panel members actually introduce themselves. And we will start with our Fire Chief Isaacs. And before you start, I'm going to ask you, as you introduce yourself, to also throw in a little icebreaker, which is, what is the first concert you attended? And I will embarrass myself by saying mine was Huey Lewis and the News.
Good evening, everybody. Jeff Isaacs. I'm your fire chief. I'd like to take a quick second to introduce my deputy chief, Lucas Lambert, my fire marshal, Casey Irving, and then MOFD board of director member, Steve Danzinger is here as well. And my first concert was Aerosmith. So I think we're probably going to date ourselves with the concerts we attended.
Tough act to follow. Okay. Anthony Rossi, police chief for Orinda. First concert, no judgment, please. Sir Mix-a-Lot. That explains a lot. Thank you, Maple. There we go.
And how long have you been our fire chief? And what is your... I'm sorry, how have you been our police chief?
I've been the police chief for about 18 months and hope to stay a lot longer than that.
Aida Glimme, Superintendent of Orinda Union School District. I've been the superintendent for, this is my 5th year here. Well, my first concert was not in this country. It is called Crvena jabuka, which means red apple in Bosnia. My first American concert was Grateful Dead.
Good evening. I'm Linda Smith. I'm the city manager for the city of Orinda. I've been in Orinda now for just over a year. Served previously in the city of Dublin for 16 years, most recently 5 as their city manager. My first concert was Bon Jovi.
That was my second concert. He's back on tour.
Okay, Chief Isaacs, you're up.
Good evening. I wanted to hit a couple things, go over tonight. One is our current wildfire prevention priorities, things we're doing that will prevent wildfire from entering our community. So we have the North Orinda shaded fuel break. It is currently in maintenance. We do prescribed fire projects on that to maintain the fuel break in a way that it would slow down or prevent fire from entering the community. We finished up last year the Tunnel East Bay Hills fuel break. Evacuation route inspections are a priority for the fire prevention team to make sure that the points that we're going to use to evacuate the community are safe, and we've removed the hazardous vegetation. We do a lot of chipping support. This is a free program that the board of directors has brought forward where residents can call and sign up for the free chipper. We used to just do this during the winter months, but it's something we do year round now because we've had that much request for it. So currently we're down to Thursday, Friday, but as things pick up, we'll go to 5 days a week in that. We adopted the new fire hazard severity zone maps. We're constantly monitoring the Board of Forestry to better understand Zone 0 and when the implementation for that's going to happen. And then our home hardening program. So we have another program that the Board of Directors strongly believes in and supports. And this is where we give material to the residents, gutter guard material for your homes to protect the gutters and remove that hazardous vegetation from your roof, as well as the ember resistant vent mesh that will prevent embers from entering your home. This next picture is a prescribed fire project that we did on the North Orinda shaded fuel break. We get a lot of complaints from folks that, hey, my hillside is black, it doesn't look good, but it's done in a strategic location where fire has the ability to enter into our community, and this just builds depth. We would use that road as a stopping point for a wildfire that's coming at us. So doing that control burn there, removing that vegetation is just a way for us to enhance the fuel break. We have 7 lines of effort for our wildfire prevention strategies. External fuel breaks that I just showed you the pictures of, our North Orinda shaded fuel break and our Tunnel East Bay Hills. Internal fuel mitigation projects, that's our chipping. That is our defensible space inspections. We're constantly doing wildfire pre-planning. That is exercises that the command staff exercises amongst ourselves and with our law enforcement partners is to pre-plan for events. We do evacuation planning with our law enforcement partners to be prepared for those types of events. This is a fire code update year, so we're working with city and town staff to update the building codes, the fire codes, and we have a new code coming in this year, the California Wildland Urban Interface Code. We focus a lot of our time and effort from prevention on community outreach and education, and we're always looking into ways to find early detection and notification systems for wildfires or the start of new fires. Here's a map that shows the North Orinda shaded fuel break and how on one of our worst case scenario days, a north wind day or Diablo wind day as they're known, this is why we picked the location we did for the fuel break to slow that approaching wildfire as it approaches our community. And it's just a map that shows better where the fuel break was done. And that's where we're doing the maintenance. That picture I showed you of the prescribed fire, it's happening on this fuel break. Here were the 2025 inspection priorities. So yellow is our evacuation routes. We completed all those. The purple are the other areas where we did targeted inspections of defensible space immediately surrounding homes. And I'm gonna turn this over to Chief Lambert. He's gonna go through some of the scenarios and stuff that he saw while he participated in the LA fires back in January.
All right, thank you, Chief. Mayor, my first concert was the Blue Oyster Cult, since nobody asked. My name is Lucas Lambert. I'm a deputy fire chief, and Chief Isaacs asked me this evening to come and address a few items that occurred down in Southern California that began on January 7th of this year. I want to preface this that on behalf of California Incident Management Team 3, these pictures were taken by me and with their permission to share. Some of these images are they're challenging. So I want to preface it with that, but it is important for us to not forget. And as humans, we often have short memories and think due to time, distance, or shielding that, hey, that can't happen, that was so long ago. Or that can't happen, that was in Southern California. Or that can't happen because this is the Bay Area, and we get Carl the Fog that comes in every day here in beautiful Orinda. But the answer is that it can, and to be prepared. So I bring this slide up here to paint the picture of those events that led into the Palisades fire, which is the fire that I'm going to focus on. So the weather for that day was considered a PDS, or a particular dangerous situation. So a PDS is the apex of a red flag warning. Raise your hand if you've heard of a red flag warning. Okay, so that's a critical fire weather. It's an event that I think that we have gotten better at in predicting for weather. And make no mistake, wind is what drives fire. This was the condition on January 7th. This was also the conditions, and I'll point out at the bottom that's dated January 12th. Okay, so that's where this was taken from. They were both similar conditions, and just consider the message and communication that we had to provide to the citizens that, hey, you went through a significant traumatic event, and another one has a potential to start again. So I was assigned to this fire to assist with mutual aid, and I was there within the first 24 hours of the beginning. This was right in the heart of the Palisades neighborhood. The photo on the left is stock image. The photo on the right is taken by me of what I believe was the same location right in the heart of the Palisades neighborhood within the community. And this is what I say. They're challenging images. This is certainly one of them. This is what was left of an elementary school, right in the Palisades neighborhood. I share this because as a reminder that fire does not discriminate. It does not determine where you fall in the political lines. It doesn't matter of the community. What it does matter is your prevention efforts and where you fall within the area, region, and so forth. We certainly fall within the areas of concern. This image was taken from what many of us was our first exposure to this fire in the morning of kind of midday of January. Well, this one is 4:55, but this was the morning of January 7th. Evacuations get brought up often, but this is what happens when people do not stay in their car and they abandon their car that blocks roadways. This is a bulldozer. This is LA County's bulldozer that's removing the vehicles that do not have anybody in them to allow access and egress that has blocked one of the major arteries to out of the community and into the community. So imagine we have to get into the community while others are exiting. This snapshot here is actually of a video that was shared with us from a neighbor. I bring this up because I want to point out that this image on the left looks like a home like many others. However, I want to point out a couple things, as Chief Isaacs has mentioned through our code adoption, that this home does not have a combustible roof. A wood shake roof. It has preventative measures with non-combustible siding, and it has relatively well maintained vegetation. I often get told, "Hey, well, that person has vegetation in the front, and it's closer than 2 feet." And the answer is correct. But fortunately, we were able to save the house on the left, and that image to your right, that's a fully involved home. That unfortunately we were unable to save. It was established in the attic space when we arrived, so it was a difficult conversation that we had, because the home that was on fire actually had a pool in the back. We were able to draft water from the pool in the rear of the home, and this is what's left. So when we talk about areas and prevention measures by the homeowners, this is a result of that. It allows us to make a stand on the fire based on a structured triage, and allows us to determine, hey, we can make a stand right here, and we can stop the fire from continuing on to the next home. And make no mistake, this fire was a conflagration that involved home-to-home ignition. And much of that was spread by ember cast. As Chief Isaacs mentioned, and on behalf of our fire district and in collaboration with the city of Orinda and town of Moraga as well, we have many opportunities to help prepare homeowners, to include the grant from MOFD to prevent access of these embers through use of gutter guards and vent mesh. That we have, and there's information out front if you have any other questions. That concludes my presentation, Chief. I'll turn it back to you.
I like to throw this photo up for a couple reasons. One, we get a lot of questions about, can I safely evacuate our community? And most people have a misconception that it's going to be a huge wall of fire that comes through our community. And this really puts it into perspective what we have to deal with. This is why it's critical for my inspectors to do the defensible space or the hazardous vegetation inspections along our evacuation routes. You can see in the bottom right corner the embers and the vegetation that are immediately adjacent to the road, and how that throws flames and embers, causing that car to move into the next lane. This is one reason it's critically important that we have that hazardous vegetation removed in good defensible space. And then what I always like to close with is, would your home survive this? I ask everybody to ask yourselves, is your home going to be like the one on the left, or is your home going to be the one on the right? As the mayor said, we're in this together. This isn't something that MOFD can do on our own. It's not something Orinda PD can do on their own. This is a joint effort that all of us have to work together, city staff, MOD staff, and our community members. So thank you very much.
Look at that handsome guy right there. Sorry. All right. So as Chief Isaacs covered a lot of the fire stuff, being the police chief, my main focus is obviously the safety and security of everybody within the community. I've learned that not only is it trying to keep us safe from bad guys, but it's also to keep us all safe from fire and those type of dangers that could affect our community. So one of the things it talks about, or I have up above here, is a unified command. So whenever there's an incident like this and of fire prevention, when this incident occurs, it's going to be Chief Isaacs and myself kind of connected at the hip. And we trained this way, and this is how we go about dealing with the fire situation that is occurring. We work together so that way that there's no misunderstanding for what law enforcement needs to do and what fire, and that ability to have that immediate communication is tremendous, and it allows less time for us to react to handle problems, especially in evacuation scenarios. You can see here, this is us, I think earlier this year, we did joint training. We do this on a regular basis. Chief Isaacs and Deputy Chief Lucas and I, we talk regularly, at least once a week, and we're always coming up with ideas and training to do a lot of tabletop scenarios. And it's not just the command structure of MOFD or Orinda PD, it's also our sergeants or battalion chiefs for the fire department. Everybody's getting to know everybody so that there's no like, never seen that guy before, but I got to talk to him. So we work continuously together. It says up here, it allows for clear, unified messaging. It streamlines our decision making. On these type of incidences, unfortunately for me, I haven't had to deal with a live fire. I've dealt with numerous amounts of other critical incidents. Having a joint command allows me to focus on what I need to, and like for a fire, Chief Isaacs, but I can also help him in taking care of problems that are potential for him and vice versa. So it allows us to be a lot smoother with our decision making. Further training, coordination, communication, and evacuation. So the biggest thing for law enforcement during these a situation like this is obviously evacuation. We have zones throughout the city, depending on where the fire is, and decisions made by Chief Isaacs with me right by his side. We start determining if there's a danger to specific neighborhoods and which neighborhoods we need to start telling them to get ready, or it's time for them to go. With that, we've already kind of self-described, or we have our evacuation routes that are in place and where we want people to go, and that includes where we want you to go so that you can reunify with your family members. Maybe mom and dad went and brother and sister are leaving school and they're going to meet up. We help you identify where those are, and we're going to get you to those locations. And that kind of comes with how we warn you. And so how many people here are part of CWS? Good. That's community warning system. When there is an incident like this, I basically make that phone call, or my incident commander, whoever that is, in that initial phase, and we put out a message that goes out to everybody. The nice thing about CWS is it's great to be signed up. Even if you're not signed up, I can force that message to you. So if you have loved ones and people haven't signed up yet, please sign up because it's very important. But if you haven't, or it's something that's you forgot to do or on the to-do list, in an incident like this where it's an emergency, I have the ability to put that message and it gets forced to your phone whether you signed up or not. So sometimes you see those in the version of an Amber Alert. All of a sudden your phone starts going off. You didn't sign up for that. That's our ability that we have with CWS to force information to allow you to know, hey, there's an evacuation, we have a fire, and you can start looking, and it directs you on how to find out if you need to evacuate or if you have family members, and it starts directing you for that. As it says, all evacuation orders are the responsibility of law enforcement, so that's myself. Orinda PD is a contract city for the Contra Costa Office of the Sheriff. So that means if we have an incident, it's not just Orinda PD, it's the entire Sheriff's Office that's coming. So I know sometimes I've heard this asked about, well, how many officers are going to be there to help us evacuate? How are you going to take on a city of our size? Well, if we have some incident like that, it's not even considered mutual aid at that point. That's a sheriff's office responsibility, and we can have a large amount of deputy sheriffs responding to assist with the evacuation within an hour. So I want to make sure that that's known to the public, that that's an advantage for us being a contract city, that we have the resources that are available 24/7 to start showing up, to start assisting. As well as the communication for that is the school district. So I work with Aida And I've met most of the principals when I do my go walk arounds and I see everybody in recess with the kids. We're aware of their safety plans. We've coordinated with them. We plan for other critical incidents that could occur on top of fire. So we know that, hey, if a school is in session, we know who the principal is, to get with them, to set up reunification, to also set up what the roster is for the day so that the teachers tell us how many kids are in school, are they all accounted for? So we have a process in place that the school basically helps tell us what they have and what, if anything is outstanding, and then we can move forward. So managing the evacuations, I think this is everyone's fear, is like some of the slides that were shown earlier, people leaving their vehicles. We're not gonna have you leave your vehicle. Like, you're safe in your vehicle, turn the air conditioning up, and we'll get you through it. It's scary looking, obviously, but you're safer in your vehicle, and we're gonna direct you and get you out of harm's way. We do have some basically areas for you to go to check in. And that's as far as like having our, ensuring our location security, evacuate areas to prevent unauthorized access. So we basically do an evacuation of a neighborhood. Law enforcement goes around to ensure that everybody that can evacuate does evacuate. If anybody needs assistance, whether they're elderly or not, we assist that. We get coordinating to have either EMS come up, like an ambulance, to help transport them, or we figure out another direction to get them out of harm's way. And then we basically own that piece of land. So fire's dealing with the fire, and then we try to protect the property to keep anybody out, so we don't have any looting and things of that nature. We also have our public works department that they assist us. You might have seen them before. If we're working any incidents in town, all of a sudden a public works truck is up and tells you the roadway's closed temporarily. That's another avenue that we have here in Orinda, that the public works alongside with the PD to assist us in road closures. So again, we have these force multipliers that assist us in these dire times. So this, what was the pointer? Sorry. Forget, I don't have the pointer. All right, so this is managing of evacuations and identifying key intersections. So like I said before, we have our zones that you can see there. This kind of lets you know that your evacuation areas, potential routes that you can take, potential arrival points, and any special considerations. So all the law enforcement officers that work for Orinda have this. The sheriff's office has this. It's all accessible to us, and they drive around town with it, including all the other equipment that they ride around with. So every one of the officers, especially assigned to Orinda, is aware of it. The sheriff's office does this training for the entire sheriff's office. So even if a deputy sheriff that's never been to Orinda or worked in Orinda is going to be able to navigate and work through these. We are going to run control of any key intersections and maintain the flow of traffic. Because we have other resources coming from all these other areas, like I've said before, we're going to be basically trying to funnel you out the most efficient and safe route that we have identified at that moment. It's been brought up a couple times. What exact road am I going to take if I live in this neighborhood or that neighborhood? We can't tell you exactly which way to go until the day of it. We can have pre-planned areas that we believe, like, this is a good evacuation point, this is a good roadway for you to take. But until that day, when I'm with Chief Isaacs and we're making decisions on an evacuation, that's when we can actually tell you, because depending on how the fire moves, the road we might tell you to go might not be accessible or might not be a good decision, and so we'll have to change that. That's, again, part of our notification. We'll tell you which road at that point when it's evacuation, and there'll be law enforcement there to help guide you out. So we're going to try to help you and get you to safety. You're just going to have to follow which way we show you to go, and we'll get you out safely. Again, talking about evacuation alerts, as part of Unified Command, we work together on evacuations for specific areas and immediate notify the public. CWS is our number one. I think it's the most powerful tool that I have because of the ability to force the information to everybody in a designated area. Nixle is great. How many of you guys are part of Nixle? Awesome. So every time I have an accident, I got to close a roadway for a little bit. You guys love that. I send that out, so apologize for that. We also have the public address. So every vehicle has loud speakers on the front. So even though when we're driving with lights and sirens, that's what you're hearing, it's also a public address system. So that way deputies and officers can sit there and use that to tell you it's time to evacuate, get out of the house, and start giving you direction. So that way it's clear. And that's all I got.
So before you begin, Superintendent, I just wanted to tell folks, some index cards here, and we are asking you to hold your questions till the end of the session and write them down on index cards, and then we will attempt to answer them all. Thank you.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Aida Glimme. Before I start, I just want to say thank you to our wonderful 5 principals that are right there in the front. You can also ask them questions at the end. No, thank you so much for being here. So I'm the superintendent of Orinda Union School District, and that includes these 5 amazing schools, which is the 4 elementary schools, Del Rey, Glorieta, Sleepy, and Wagner, and then the 1 middle school, Orinda Intermediate School, and we, of course, work very closely with our partners in Akalani's Union High School District, especially this high school, which is Miramonte, because everything that Miramonte does, of course, affects us, and everything that Akalani School District does affects what we do. So we're in close partnerships with them. So what I'll talk about is just our main priority, which is our commitment to safety. Clearly, we are all about student learning and instruction, but our students can't learn if they don't feel safe, and our parents have to feel safe when they drop off their students, and they have to know that they're safe in case of any kind of emergency, like a fire danger. So I'll just focus on what we do for prevention, preparedness, and how we communicate in case of an emergency, and just mention a little bit about collaboration with city, county, and emergency partners, which you had heard about a little bit about. This is an amazing remote. So, I can't see from here. Can I open this here? I'm sorry, I'm going to open this because it's a lot of words. There it goes. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's really important for us to be prepared so that we can respond in any kind of an emergency. And we do that through very comprehensive safety plans. In our annual safety plan, we focus on all sorts of things, not just emergency plans, but mental health and behavioral plans. But our emergency operational plans truly focus on what happens day to day in case of an emergency. So our plans are regularly updated and revised, and we are constantly looking at evolving state, county, and city guidances when it comes to what are the best ways to respond to emergencies and how to do that, and how to coordinate with our partners like MOFD and OPD. As I mentioned, we reviewed those with our partners. We're going to be bringing our safety plans in front of our board before March, so in the February board meeting, and those will be up to date with all of the current updates and new guidelines that have been mentioned actually this evening. With that, in addition to just the plans, we've also really focused on updating our facilities. Chief Isaacs talked a lot about preparedness of the facilities, and we've done quite a bit in the last few years. Orinda passed Measures E&I bond, and we've used a lot of those bond dollars to make our facilities safer. When it comes to safety preparedness, every envelope, every classroom has been made safer, from every new window, new roofs, to new HVAC system, which keeps the clear air safer because of the smoke days, but also with that access and accessibility so that we can actually evacuate easier in case of an emergency, and then signage, and then communication systems. Our schools are aging and they're old, and we used to have very old PA systems, and now every single classroom has a brand new system that we can actually utilize in cases of emergency, so every area of our campus can hear if something is going on. So, so those are our spaces. We also, of course, work very closely with our partners in the fire department, and especially our fire marshals when it comes to regular annual our inspections for indoor and outdoor spaces. And while we sometimes don't care for how our outdoor spaces look like anymore, with no vegetations and no bushes and so on, we understand the importance of all those defensible spaces around our buildings, and are doing, and it's a collaboration to make sure that our buildings are really protected. Okay, preparing our students and staff. I mean, we have close to 2,700 students and over 370 staff members, and that's really important for them to really know how to respond in a calm manner in a case of emergency. So number one way that we do that, we have regular fire and evacuation drills, and those are done on monthly basis. We do other drills as well, but tonight the focus is on fire, and those are mandated for us to do on monthly basis. We do that on age-appropriate ways, so we have 4-year-olds on our campuses and we have 13-year-olds on our campuses, and they all need to know how to follow their teacher and how to be prepared in case of an emergency. So it's really important for us, to our staff, to know how to account for those students, how to keep them calm, how to respond, where do they evacuate on our campuses, how to count for them, how to report for them, and then how to return them into the classroom if that's where they're returning. And then we'll talk about reunification just a little bit, but fire and police departments have actually examined our campuses over the last few years to make sure that our evacuation routes around our campuses, around our buildings, are the appropriate and the most efficient ways to evacuate in different emergencies, that our gathering areas are the best areas to gather in case of emergencies, and then how do we exit our schools if we need to exit. Communication is key in case of an emergency. So we have multiple channels, just like the Chief Rossi has mentioned, for us to communicate with our parents. So while our, the chief is talking about evacuation with the rest of the community, we have to make sure that our parents, in case of emergency, are not rushing our campuses and making our campuses more unsafe. So for us, it's really important that we have really clear and calm and constant communication with our parents. So we do that. We have a parent square system that also pushes to every single parent. We have text messaging, we have email, phone calls on an auto dialer, and of course on our website. We also use, we have internal walkie-talkies that we do on every single campus, so that in case those communication channels are down, that our staff can still communicate. And then we utilize a centralized system for our communication. So if there's an emergency, and unfortunately we have dealt with this before, but if there's an emergency on our campus, we don't want our principals to have to write these text messages and write emails and constantly communicate with the parent. And instead, that communication is actually centralized through my office. So the district office is in constant communication with the site principals and asking, okay, what do you want me to communicate? What should I communicate? And those emails and updates are being sent out of my office as the communications headquarters, while they're able to run the emergency response on site. And then I'm able to communicate with either it's Chief Isaacs or Chief Rossi, and able to update the school site as well. So it's a really well-oiled communication system that we have unfortunately had to test through various communications, but that has fortunately worked really well, and we've gotten good feedback and learned from that in the past. Okay. So how do we evacuate in case of emergency? I mean, some of those pictures are really scary. So when to think about, like, how do you get students out? Our students are too young to drive. So how do you get them off campus in case of a really fast moving fire? So it is our first and primary response to get students to be picked up by the parents. That is the first and primary way to get them off. So if there is time to do that, and we believe that in most cases that would be the case, they would be picked up and reunified on campus by their parents. So as they're sheltered in place in a classroom or in a safe location, if needs to be a different location than their classroom with their teacher, then they're picked up by their parents in an orderly manner. That's the primary way. If for some reason the parents cannot get to the school because there's not enough time, evacuation off campus would be our priority. We would be working with Chief Rossi to get the county connection buses to come and evacuate the students off campus. And then to a reunification area. There are several different areas that could serve as a reunification zone, like a BART parking lot or an Akalani's high school parking lot. So those areas would be communicated to our parents as appropriate, because depending on where the fire is coming from, where the safe zone would be, that would be identified at that time by Chief Rossi. And then another way that we would handle it is if there is a PDS day, okay, in a high fire zone, we would actually just not have school on those days. Some of our schools are a little more easier to evacuate from, like on this side of the town, versus an area like a Sleepy Hollow Elementary School, which was shown on a map earlier. That's a school that's harder to access, therefore harder to evacuate out of. So if there was conditions in the weather that would make it really high fire danger zone, we would consider of just not having school on those days. And we're actually working with Congressman Grayson right now on working on what would those days count as, so they wouldn't count against the school district for not having a school closure day. And then really the last resort would be a shelter in place. And I should have said that on a facility upgrade, one of the main facility upgrades when it comes to safety was actually building a new multi-purpose room at Sleepy Hollow, which is our fire-resistant multi-purpose room to be able to shelter in place for that school site and for the community should that not be able to evacuate. And that is the one MPR that has the sprinklers on the outside, has increased fire piping underneath, and that actually there's an extra water tower there so that we can utilize it for shelter in place if need be, but that would be our last resort. So with that, as I mentioned, it is a continuous improvement and collaboration, and it is after every emergency drill and after every emergency that we do experience, we do a type of an after-action review plan where we examine what went well and what are the lessons learned, so we can do things better. That's why we do emergency drills, and we especially do that after any kind of true emergency that has been experienced on the school site. We ask for feedback from our parents, from our students, from our staff especially, and then we ask for feedback from our emergency partners as well. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Ms. Smith, our city manager.
Thank you, Aida, and thank you for coming out tonight and taking part in this forum. And we're looking forward to answering questions. So I'm going to try and whip through this because I'm standing between you and asking your questions of the group. So I'm going to move on. I think I have two of these same slides. What do we make? Okay. So the role of the city manager is pretty much set out in the city's municipal code. I'm the emergency manager. So if there is an incident that occurs in Orinda, I'm the person that has to call the state of emergency and start putting together the resources in the field. The firefighters are out there at incident command. They're working the issue, but once we realize that that issue is going to need more resources, more support, it's my obligation to call for a state of emergency in the city and start working to assemble those resources and bring them together in an emergency operations center. And we are prepared to do that. We are working on updating our emergency operations plan as we speak, so that we can have a more modern plan that's available to us that sort of addresses the current conditions and the issues that we know that we have here in the community. So that is my role in all of this. I'm behind the scenes. You probably will never see me. If there's a press conference, you're going to see the chief, the fire chief, and the mayor standing up at the podium, and I'm going to be in the back running the center. Okay, so that's the way it works. We also are very coordinated with our partners. I speak frequently with the general manager of East Bay Mud. We speak with all the other partners. We are an active participant in the county's emergency operations center and their system at County OES. And those resources are always going to be available to us, as is our neighbors and our partners. I know Andy's here from the city of Lafayette. And, we work very closely and collaboratively with all the agencies in the area to ensure that, we're all in the same boat. We all have the same threats, and we need to be working as partners in trying to mitigate those threats, as well as ensure we have contingency plans in case we need to actually mobilize and do things that we unfortunately would need to do. So we work really closely to manage and maintain those relationships. The city, as an organization, has been doing a lot to help promote wildfire risk reduction. I think the mayor may have touched on this a little bit when she started, but there are a lot of programs that we're offering currently in the city that are available to all residents, including a chipper program that we make available year-round. So if you have fuel that you want removed from your property, you can schedule with us. MOFD also has a similar program. I think we have more days available through our program, but either one, you can reach out to us and we can help to remove those fuels after they've been cut from your property. We can chip them and get them off your property. And that's a service that we've had available for quite some time, and we continue to offer that, and we will for the foreseeable future. We have incentive programs, so if you want to remove fuels from your property, we will give you up to $1,000 worth of in return for some of the work that you're doing on your property. We are looking, I know our Sales Tax Oversight Commission, who oversees our Measure R funding, which is how this is funded, is looking at ways to maybe enhance that program, as well as other ways that we can help to enhance incentivizing residents to remove fuel from their properties. So there's a lot of work that's going on, and hopefully we're going to be advancing that work even more in the next year. And then we've done a lot of community outreach in this space, including tons of social media, dedicated staff that's designed to reach out to the community on this matter. And, sometimes people don't want to hear from government, right? That's not when you're looking on your social media channels, government is not the first thing you want to see pop up. But we're trying to diversify and make it more entertaining for you so that you'll pay attention to some of our messages. But we are very active. This year in particular, our fuel reduction activities on our city-owned properties, I think, was a little bit more robust than in previous years post-Palisades. We worked very closely with MOFD on, not just what we needed to do, but what we should do around creating additional fuel lines between our evacuation routes and around important corridors throughout the community. So you might have seen a little bit more work done this year than previous years, and that will continue. The chipper program, I think we talked a little bit about this. I won't get too into it, but we are removing a lot of fuel from your properties. We'd love to remove a lot more. So if you haven't taken advantage of the chipper program, I really would encourage you to do so. And people want more, and we're trying to give them as much as we can. So we are, we can double up at some points in time. We can have more chipper trucks out there assisting when demand waves, right? Demand comes up at certain times of the year, and we try to respond to that demand as best we can, and I think we've been doing a pretty good job of that. The incentive program, as we talked about, we've We have budgeted about $400,000. We still have money left in that fund. We will probably, and I don't want to speak for the council, replenish that fund if that fund gets exhausted, because this is truly important work. This also includes zone 0 work around your house, as well as other fuel mitigation work on your property. So we would highly encourage you to take advantage of our incentive programs. On community education outreach, we are continuing to beat that drum. We've held wildfire safety fairs. We've been at the farmers market. James, who's standing over here, has been out there for the last few years trying to get people to pay closer attention to this issue. We are getting ready to launch a new website called orindaready.com, and this is going to be a collaboration of all the different agencies that care about this particular issue, but it's going to be a one-stop shop. So you don't have to go look at the MOFD page to find something, then look at the city page to find something, then go to FSMO to find something. We're trying to provide one place where you can get all the information that you need about what you should be doing in Orinda to make your home safer and your community safer. And then coming soon, parent education nights. Here's one. We're here. And we'll do more of them as the demand requires. And Firewise groups, we are huge partners with Fire Safe Moraga-Orinda and our Firewise neighborhoods, and we're going to continue to maintain those strong working relationships with the community. Some things to just talk about on evacuation. It's really one thing that's not on this slide. It's new for us is that we have recently obtained a new piece of software called Ladris, and it's an ability for us to model evacuations, both the pace in which evacuations need to happen, and we can overlay what wildfire spread might look like and can help us get a better understanding of how long it might take us to clear certain neighborhoods. So there's many people within the city getting trained on this service right now, and we will make a public-facing tool available in the next couple of months before the end of the year, so that residents can also go on there and sort of see what it would take to exit their neighborhoods. It's interesting what we've been able to model thus far, but we want to try different scenarios. We're going to run a multitude of scenarios. The chief and I have been playing around with the system, but we want to look at what if this happens? What if this road's blocked? We want to know sort of like that practice beforehand before we get into an emergency situation. So if we see something starting, if there's a fire that's starting out in Briones, we already have a general sense of how long it's going to take to get out North Orinda or neighborhoods in North Orinda. We would be able to give a heads up to Chief Isaacs and say, hey, we already know it's going to take this long. So don't wait too long to give us an evacuation order, and we will start getting people out sooner the better. So that's sort of one of the things that we think is going to be really important in helping to plan for these types of activities moving forward. And we've talked about community warning systems. Everybody should have NIXL. Everybody should have CWS. These are extremely important. And one of the things that we really are trying to focus on as well is Moraga Way. As you know, it can get crowded along Moraga Way, especially during the day, certain times of the day in particular. And what we're trying to do is see if we could get some funding so that we can create what we're calling an auxiliary lane, which would be available for bikes and peds during the regular normal course of the day. But in the event of an emergency, it'd be wide enough to be able to allow emergency vehicles to head one way while we have two lanes of traffic heading the other way. So that's something that we're working on. We want to get a feasibility study underway. We've got our part funded. I know Moraga is working on their part to get funded, and hopefully in the next year or so we'll have enough funding together to do the feasibility analysis for that. So it's a longer term play in terms of what we want to do, but we think it'll be very effective in helping us with evacuation planning for South Orinda. And the other thing that is, we just got our bids back. I haven't even asked what the bids were, but we're going to cut the medians on both on the Camino Pablo side and on the Moraga Way side. So as you enter into Highway 24, we're going to create what were these sort of emergency access points. So if in the event of an emergency, we don't have to loop you underneath the freeway to get you onto Highway 24, we'll have brakes in the median, they'll have an emergency gate there, but in the event of emergency, the gates get pulled and then everybody can start flowing onto the freeway much faster than they currently can. So those are some of the things that we've been working on, and it's top of mind to everything. Every day I talk about this topic in some form or fashion. The other thing that is more of a longer lead item is that we're participating in a smart signals program so that in the event of an incident when the police are out and maybe they can't be at every intersection directing traffic, the signals will tell you that it's time to go. And we'll just turn everything green, turn it one way, and then everybody can head out. We're working, the one place we have to work on is Brookwood Road because that signal's controlled by Caltrans. So that one won't change, but then we'll have to staff it or man it. And that's the thing that we're trying to avoid. And we're working with Caltrans to see if we can tap into their system and have their system flush with our system so we can get people out of this community without having to deal with lights changing at Brookwood Road and Moraga Way. Our call to action for you, for those in the audience, and most of you know this, is harden your home. Manage your vegetation on your properties. Get involved in a fire-wise community. There are people here that would love to talk to you about getting involved in a fire-wise community. Do you have a go bag at your house? Everybody have a go bag? Andy has a go bag. I know he does. Latika has a go bag. You should have a go bag, and in that go bag you should have things that don't require power. So solar powered things, cranked things that when you don't have any ability to charge, you can use something else that could be powered by the sun or by cranking your hand, okay? Monitor the weather. We are going to be very vigilant in telling you that if it is a red flag day, you'll know about it in Orinda. You'll know if there's a particularly dangerous situation in Orinda. We will be flooding you with information about that. And in your neighborhood, check on your neighbors prior to an evacuation. We want to know if there's anybody that is being left behind. The chief and I have been trying to come up with different solutions for that as well, so that we can make sure that when we clear a neighborhood, we've actually cleared the neighborhood. And take one car when evacuating. I know it's very tempting to take multiple cars. That just means twice as many cars on the road, which means it takes twice as long for you to leave. Maybe not twice as long. I'm going to model what it takes with 2 cars and 1 car's leaving, and so we can see what the differences is, so that you as a community can be educated how much better it would be if you just shoved as many things you can into the 1 car and got out. We'll let you back in ultimately to your neighborhood, but it might be a few days. Okay, so with that, I think we are going to turn it back over to the mayor, and she can help to facilitate any questions that you have.
Thank you. And does everyone here have access to cards? Or if not, James, have you passed around cards? If anyone needs more, raise your hand and we'll get them to you. Thank you all. We have a couple of questions that came in before, so I'll start in with those. I do want to, someone has asked me, a resident asked, how can you guarantee my safety? And the answer is, we can't guarantee anything, okay? What we can do is all work together. Again, each of us do our part, right? Residents hold government accountable. We hold you accountable to do your part, to do your own home hardening, to do your mitigation. And we all together hold our neighbors, our partners, like the parks and the East Bay Mud, and we all hold each other accountable and we collaborate and work together. And that's the good news, is we have so many resources here in Orinda and so many best practices. And I think, in the last 7 years or so, we have gone from really not having a lot in this area to probably being one of the communities in the state that has the most resources available. I think we really are sort of a shining star in how to do this right. Doesn't mean we have a whole lot farther to go. We have so far to go, but we also have so much available, okay? So look to that orindaready.com. Sign up for CWS if you haven't. Yes, we can push the one advantage of being signed up is you'll get the test text, so you'll know that it's all working. And know your zone and Genesis. Again, all of this will be collected at orindaready.com. So we have a few questions here. One I think was sort of touched on, but but probably could get a little more explanation, which is where should kids go for safety during school hours should a fire sweep through the OIS Del Rey area? And since evacuation is sort of the role of the city, I guess I'm sure the superintendent wants to take this on, but also maybe our police chief could speak to it.
Well, if they're in school, they should be in school, and then there will be an evacuation. We're going to work together. In this area, there will be, we will call in for our parents to come in and pick up the students, and they're going to go home or wherever they're evacuating to. So that's as I mentioned, for the evacuation. That's actually for all of our schools. So we're not sheltering in place at our school sites. They're getting picked up. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add.
Just one thing. With a fire, it's not, and I don't want to use this as a good example, but with a fire, we have time. We know the fire's there. We know it's coming. So to ask a question like that's great. There's a process in place to do this. It's not as if an explosion has occurred and we have a chaotic scene that we're trying to deal with. We know there's a fire, we know it's coming, and we're going to do the preventative steps to make sure the evacuation is as smooth as possible, especially having the parents come and start that process. So I just want to make that clear. It's not like a fire just all of a sudden appears. We're going to have time. How much time is always going to be debatable, but we'll have some time to start moving these processes through.
Anyone else want to add to that or no? I'll move on. One thing with evacuation that I think a lot of our residents didn't initially understand, or may be hard to understand, is, there's this sense to want to know now, okay, if there's a fire, what road am I supposed to drive down? Where am I supposed to go, right? And we can't tell you necessarily in advance. What you can do is know your zone, right? And be familiar with your routes in your area. And the reason we can't tell you in advance is because it depends where the fire is coming from, right? And I don't know if Chief Isaacs, do you want to speak to that at all, or? No.
Our worst case scenario is a Diablo wind day, a north wind event coming from the watershed, Rione's area into the community. So a wind-driven fire out there is going to impact the community, and as we've said, Chief Rossi and I, or Chief Lambert, and whoever's on duty that day, we're going to coordinate our activities, the expected fire behavior, where we think the fire is going to be in the next 30 minutes, hour, 2 hours, to start that evacuation process.
Great, thank you. Okay, another question. In past power outages, self-service was knocked out. What is the plan to communicate with parents if internet and phone service is impacted during an emergency?
Communication will be difficult. If you there's satellite phones now. Most iPhones can offer satellite service. So if you wanted to be able to switch to your satellite, there's a local radio station. We'll probably hit up the city of Lafayette because I think they manage it. But we would probably ask you to tune into on your crank radio, which you should have in your go bag, to a certain radio station, and you would get further instructions. Police will be in neighborhoods evacuating people and providing that information over their speaker systems to leave neighborhoods. They will be, if necessary, going door to door to get people out of neighborhoods as well. So I think it's a combination of factors, and hopefully we wouldn't lose cell service everywhere, but if we did, there's tools available to us, including using AM radio to get information out to residents.
Yeah, and we actually have phones that are not just on cell phones too, so that we all can communicate between the district office and the school sites now. So, we're able to communicate with the sites, and we have repeaters, so we pay for a service so that our walkie-talkies can also work. at the school sites and with the district office. It's just the communication with the parents. So with the radio stations, that's the way to go.
Okay, another question. I love, emphasis, the evacuation modeling software. I see efforts in wildfire mitigation and response. Is there any sensor network for awareness and rapid detection?
So to address the sensors, what we do have is an agency or an interlock between cameras. So our wildfire cameras are gathered across the state and beyond. Coupled with that, and they're placed on strategically throughout the areas. If you've never looked, make sure whoever had that question, I give you the website and the access. And you can look through the cameras, like I said, across the state at high peaks. Those are also coupled with AI-driven data that can detect senses of fire in the area. What we had before were fire lookouts, and those still do exist, where there are manned towers on high peaks that overlook in big distances. Now we have that coupled with cameras at strategic locations, powered by AI. The closest one here, and one of the best views, is Volmer Peak at the top of Tilden.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I can just add a
Please.
couple things. So our dispatch centers monitor those cameras. So one question, if you listen to the radio traffic, you'll hear myself, Chief Lambert, or the on-duty battalion chief ask the dispatcher as we're being dispatched to the call is, are you seeing anything on the cameras? And if the dispatcher comes back and says, yeah, we have a large, rapidly building column, that tells us to augment our dispatch for ground resources as well as air resources.
Thank you. Related to that, we did have discussion about partnering with East Bay Mud and PG&E. To the extent that they have advanced wildfire modeling or they have sensors or information, are they sharing that information with us? I think the answer is they're starting to. Sharing their sensor information? Or advanced wildfire modeling. I think we have very advanced wildfire modeling right now. The city of
we
Orinda
probably
does.
have more. They do a lot on land management, right? So they're spending a lot of time on fuel mitigations. Perhaps Chief Isaacs would love them to do more in certain areas, but there's a lot of partnership going on, and they're very engaged in the conversation. We're having a very large regional conversation about ways that we can do better on fuel mitigation work and who's going to pay for that, and is the state going to put together any more money so that we can help these large land managers do the best job possible so that it protects the communities that they directly abut, including Orinda. But in terms of access to their sensor data, we don't typically have that, but we have close working relationships with the management of those organizations. PG&E, I think they probably have been investing more heavily in this technology as of late as a result of many previously failed issues that they've had to deal with that have resulted in large catastrophic wildfires, and we're all paying it in our PG&E bills, let's be honest.
One thing I do want to emphasize, it's been said throughout this, but there's so much regional collaboration happening, and that is relatively new. There's always been collaboration, of course, internally within Orinda amongst the people you see here, or the agencies you see here, but the larger regional collaboration is happening in a couple different ways. First of all, Lafayette, Moraga, and Orinda are all talking regularly about wildfire and evacuation and how we can all work together. And then after the LA fires, Orinda pitched an idea of forming a regional working group. And so we're participating in that, and Senator Grayson, our state senator, is leading that right now, and it's bringing together East Bay Mud, East Bay Parks, local government, fire districts, and other, Caltrans, other agencies, basically all of government, PG&E to a certain extent, to try to work together and identify vulnerabilities so that we can have collaboration on solutions to those vulnerabilities. And that's really exciting. And of course, our assemblywoman lives in Orinda, and kids have attended Sleepy Hollow, so she's very concerned and provided the initial funding for the North Orinda Fire Break. So and our congressman got the funding for the Smart Signals program. So our electeds are all working really hard to help us implement best practices locally. Here's another question. There are many trees overhanging power lines on Moraga Way. Are homeowners responsible for trimming away from these, or is there assistance from the city or PG&E? Who wants to take that?
I'll take that one. Trees that overhang a power line are the responsibility of the power company, unless it's from the power pole that's called the drop line. From that drop line to your house, the homeowner's responsible. If you're concerned about trees overhanging power lines, I would encourage you to reach out to PG&E, to their vegetation management program. If you have trouble locating that number, get in contact with us, and we can point you to the right person and make that contact.
Thank you, Chief. Those are all the questions we had tonight, unless there's any others. I do want to thank all of you for coming. I want to thank Miramonte High School for hosting us, and I wanted to just see, I don't know if there's any final remarks that any of the presenters, panelists want to make. If you were, let me pose this. If you want to tell those who are watching and those who are here today that there's one thing they need to go out and do, what would it be?
Create the defensible space around your home.
Know your neighbors and who needs help in the event of an evacuation. Okay. I just wanted to remind everybody that this is being recorded. We're going to make this recording available, obviously, to the families and parents in the community so that they can go back, for those that weren't able to attend, which looks like the majority of the population, the parent community. But we could have that available, and we can help to promote that. Hopefully we can share that with the school district, and they can send out the links so parents can get a better understanding of the coordination that goes on between the agencies.
I would tell folks if you're not part of a Firewise community, become part of one, because that's part of knowing your neighborhood and knowing your neighbors, and it's a real good resource to sort of unearth and unpack all that's available to you. And it's easier to do stuff in community, right? It's easier to tackle big problems together. Any other comments? Okay, if not, I really want to thank our panelists tonight. And again, this is the second in a series of community education nights. Please share that you were here with 5 other people so that they know and that they can watch the recording, because this is all really important stuff. Thank you.